But
on
that's
this
kind of
episode
what Jon
of
Stewart
whodem.
was getting at there, where it's like what Netanyahu is doing is having the opposite effect of keeping Jewish people safe.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a narcissist himself, right? And really, he's out for his own survival right now.
As someone who is in the system, do you have similar feelings in terms of it being broken?
If we don't continue to push back, if we don't continue to fight, if we don't get people to stand up and speak out, then we are losing, right? It is never going to go back, right? Because this isn't normal right now.
I see you got a Chargers hat on. I know we've talked about football in the past. Are you rooting for the Chargers this season?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm actually a Charger season ticket holder, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you excited for Justin Herbert?
He's yeah. I mean, he's good, right? I like Justin Herbert, and I think the coach that they got last year. I can't think of his name.
Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's Jim or John. I think it's John Harbaugh or the Jim now that they have.
Yeah, but he I think is a good guy to work with him to kind of get them on track. And I think, he made the playoffs their first year, and hopefully they will make the playoffs again and continue to improve. I know he's very big on, protecting the quarterback, having the line. So he's made some improvements to the offensive line. So I think that'll be a plus. You give the quarterback more time, he can find people open.
Absolutely. No, I think Justin Herbert's one of those underrated quarterbacks in the NFL, if you ask me. And he's got a good target now in Ladd McConkey. And like you're saying, the offensive line is going to be pretty good. I'm a Falcons fan, so I always am in constant limbo. I always have the hope going into the season where it's like this year it's going to work, it's going to be different. But 2016 just changed the way that I look at Atlanta sports after we lost to Tom Brady in that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was just bad. I never have any hope now. I'm sitting down watching the game. I'll be with my girlfriend, and we'll be watching the game, and we'll be up by a touchdown or two. And she's like, why aren't you happy? Why aren't you excited? And I'll be like, just wait, come around, end up losing the game.
That
tough.
That was just kind of an unbelievable comeback, right? They were down by. New England was down by 20, and you just kind of at halftime, you just kind of thought the game was over. And I guess Atlanta kind of thought the same thing, and they ended up losing. But New England had some crazy luck, even the other one was Seattle right there on the
goal line.
On the goal line.
Yeah.
And why not run the ball and kind of force it in there, right?
You have the greatest running back of all time.
Yeah. Who's now an actor.
Yeah. He's everything. He's a comedian, an actor, a salesman. He's doing it all.
Yeah, he's doing I guess on one of the pregame shows, right? Too, he's interviewing people and stuff like that. Isn't he?
Yes, I think so. So.
But why they did that, right? And it was just unbelievable dumb luck that they just had to keep winning.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, also I feel like about football, it's about putting yourselves in those positions to get lucky. And they were just a team that was so good at always putting themselves in that spot to get lucky. I mean, I hesitate to say, and it really breaks my heart because of that game, that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm curious, who is your GOAT football player? We've talked about basketball. I know you like Hakeem Olajuwon, was it? Or was it?
Oh, no, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem. Oh, my goodness. Wow. There you go.
Yeah. Football, to me, I've always how do you say, there's so many different positions, right? You got offense and you got defense and people who contribute in other different ways. And it's I think the quarterbacks always get the limelight or whatever, right? But, how could you not say Dick Butkus or a Lawrence Taylor, were dominant, and why not consider them one of the greatest of all time, or offensive linemen like Art Shell or Gene Upshaw. I'm naming the Raiders there. But, these guys were incredible and unbelievable, right, at their job and what they did. But, because they don't score points, they never get the label as the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
But it is, I just think it's hard, to kind of say, or even Jerry Rice, right? Who even then, was a great, probably, I don't know, maybe the greatest receiver of all time, but yet when they talk about goats, it always seems to be the quarterbacks that they talk about, right?
Yeah, and it's tough too because of the Super Bowl wins, right? Like you can only control the environment that you're in so much. Like someone like Dan Marino, like
Yeah,
obviously a great quarterback, but just
yeah,
never getting that ring just
hmm,
always will tarnish his name in the conversation of greatest of all time, which I think is just so unfortunate.
yeah. I mean, it's tough that way, right? I think he went to three Super Bowls and he lost them
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, there's a good like 30 for 30 on that draft. I guess it was 80, 83 or 84. The year Marino got drafted, Elway got drafted. Who was it? Jim Kelly from Buffalo. You know, he got drafted. There was like seven quarterbacks that were taken like in the first round, and Dan
Wow.
Marino was the last one.
Wow. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, he kept dropping. You know, for whatever reason, like people thought I guess he was on steroids or something, or you know had some kind of problems, and he like dropped all the way to the bottom. But it's like you know Miami got a steal when they got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing happened with I think if you ask me who the greatest athlete of all time, I always say Deion Sanders. I think
Hmm.
that it's just the ability to play both sides of the ball in football and then go and play baseball. I mean, he was flying, Friday night, going to a football game for Sunday, flying out of the football game on Sundays to go and play a baseball game on Monday. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. But the same thing happened with his son, Shador, where, everyone was expecting him to go and be a top 10 draft pick, but he fell all the way
Yeah.
to the fourth round to
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, these things you never know in these drafts and things like that, right? And then you know you always get the guy who's the is it the I think it's San Francisco's quarterback right now, right? Who is Mr. Irrelevant?
Yeah, Brock Purdy, the last pick in
Yeah,
the draft.
right. You know, and those guys usually never make the team, right? But you know, here he is starting in the NFL now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's the same thing with Tom Brady as well. He was one of the sixth round draft pick and
yeah,
turns into the greatest quarterback of all time.
exactly. You never know. You never know.
It was
But I will say
unbelievable.
this: even Deion Sanders will even tell you, though. You said the greatest athlete, but Deion will tell you, Bo Jackson
Yeah.
was a better athlete than he was,
Yeah.
and a better hitter too. He said.
Like the baseball side of it. You think he was a better baseball player than Dion?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Bo Jackson's the only athlete to be kind of like he was in what All Pro or as an NFL player, and then made was an All Star in baseball. He was
Wow.
like the only athlete ever to do that. I mean, to me, the greatest athlete of all time is Jim Thorpe, right? When you kind of think historically, I mean, this is a guy who succeeded in football. He played professional baseball. Was a two-time Olympian. You know, won two gold medals in the
Yeah.
1912 Olympics. There's like nobody has that resume that he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's always also such a tough conversation in sports. I was listening to the Pat McAfee show and they had on, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. But the tight end that just got inducted into the Hall of Fame has the most touchdown receptions of any tight end in history. And he was explaining like this conversation about like the GOATs in
Hmm.
sports and the way that he views specifically the tight end position is like not so much as like who's the greatest, but
Right.
like it was a race and everyone was kind of running their race and they were
Hmm.
passing the baton on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a tough conversation with like Wilt Chamberlain as well because obviously Wilt is great, but comparing Wilt Chamberlain to LeBron James just in terms of like the physicality and how much about the sport and the way that it's played, the speed at which it's played, it's really difficult to make those intergeneration comparisons.
Yeah. Antonio Gates. That's who you're
Antonio
talking about.
Gates.
Yeah.
There you
Charger.
go. Yes,
Yeah.
Antonio Gates. That's probably
Mhm.
what brought it to my mind, the Chargers.
You know what's crazy is he didn't even play football in college.
Yeah, he played basketball.
He
I
played
learned that.
basketball. They didn't even have a football team where he went, and I don't even
Yeah, Kent
remember where he
State.
went. Yeah, yeah,
Kent
Kent
State.
State. Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't even have a football team, and somehow he ended up, he ends up in the Football Hall of Fame. It's crazy.
I learned that the first college that he went to, that now that I'm blanking on, was being coached by Bill Belichick.
Oh,
And
really?
he asked Belichick, he's like, I want to play football and basketball. And Belichick's like, no, you're going to focus on football. This is a football operation. This is what we run here.
Yeah.
And so he left. He
Mm.
bolted to Kent State, or he went and played JUCO, and then he went to Kent State. But yeah, I think it's absolutely insane that you go from being a professional or a high level D1 basketball player to being in the Hall of Fame for a completely different
Different
sport.
sport. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking about great athletes.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, right? There's a, God, I can't think of her name now either, right? But there's actually a former softball player from GW who's now like an Olympic bobsledder.
Really?
She's won like I think two or three like Olympic medals. Okay, now I gotta look her up here real quick.
Yeah, look her up. That's awesome. I feel like I'm excited for GW basketball this semester. I think that at the time that I've been here, every single year, it's been getting a little bit better, and I'm excited to see if we can finally, this year actually put on a good team. I feel like last season we went in and we were playing well, and then just ended up, fumbling the record.
Yeah, I mean, we won 20 games last year, which was the first time they've done that in a while. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. The Coach Caputo, we should get him on the show.
Yeah, I'm down.
And
I'm
he
for
would.
it.
I think I can ask him, and he'd do it.
That would be an exciting. Yeah, I would be so
Yeah,
down for that. That would be so much fun.
yeah. We actually get him. We should get him and his wife, because his wife actually works in politics.
Really? What does she do? Do you know?
She's kind of like a political consultant.
I see.
Like she helps candidates and things like that. But yeah, but we should. I'll reach out to him and see if we can get him on the show to kind of talk some hoops. But
That would be a lot of fun.
Alana Myers Taylor.
Lana Myers Taylor. I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah, not familiar, but
yeah, she's it's Olympic bobsledding, right? Who really kind of follows it that much? But
yeah.
she's won. Let me see here, guys. She's won a few. She's won one, two, three. She's got 3 silvers and 2 bronze.
Wow. Chasing
Yeah,
that gold still.
yeah. But 2 women, mono bob. I guess that's one by herself, and then 2 women. But yeah, she's won some gold at the World Championships, but not in the Olympics yet. But yeah, she was went to GW playing softball, and then she transitioned into bobsledding somehow.
Wow.
Which,
I
which,
always wonder.
which one of your former Senate candidates, Herschel Walker, actually did the same thing too. He
Yeah.
competed in the Olympics as a
We
bobsled one year.
we don't claim him except for as a Georgia Bulldog. Go
Yeah.
Dogs.
Hmm.
Always in that Russian record. But yeah, no, as a politician and as a political figure, I do not claim Herschel Walker. My favorite every time that I hear that name, I think of his moment in the debate where he pulls out the police badge and he's like, I'm a police officer.
Yeah.
I'm a real police officer. And it just seems like an SNL skit. I can't. And then that year was just crazy with Loeffler, who you also have experience with in her debate with Raphael Warnock. That was a time in politics for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it probably was an SNL skit if we go back and look.
It's like The Simpsons at this point. SNL is becoming The Simpsons, where they're just starting to predict the future.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with The Onion. You're familiar with The Onion? I'm sure,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's wild. Like headlines that are coming out now. From The Onion, I like read them and I like keep scrolling and I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a normal, and I have to like scroll back up and be like, oh wait, no, this is satirical. This one isn't like a real headline that I
Yeah.
should investigate further. It's wild. The times are absolutely crazy right now. I don't know if you saw, but Hunter Biden recently went on a new media program.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about this?
You know, it's not like we're having meetings on this, right, in our
Yeah.
caucus meetings or anything like that, right? So just everything. I did not hear the interview. I read about it, in the paper, a couple different articles about it, but I mean, really, it's like, who's Hunter Biden, right? He's it's like tabloid news right now with him.
Yeah.
It's not like he's contributing anything significant or anything kind of, that's going to be influential into the future, right? It's all about just kind of like, oh, let's interview Hunter Biden, and we'll get some good juice on something, right? And that's basically what it was, right? They talked about his life, his addiction thing, why he's so pissed off,
Yeah.
his issues. Yeah, it's tabloid fodder right now, right? Might as well have been in the National Enquirer or something like that.
Well, the New Yorker definitely picked up a couple articles about it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I follow Andrew Callahan, and I followed him for some years now. He did a program called All Gas No Brakes, and
Mm-hmm.
he would travel in an RV across the country and go to like different events. And it's like you are you familiar with Jordan Klepper from The Daily Show?
Yeah, yeah,
Where it's like Jordan Klepper but serious. It's what's his face? It's Borat but it's serious.
yeah.
That's the way that I think about it, um, which is saying something. It's toned down Borat, and so apparently Hunter was also familiar with him, and it was just interesting to see this interview take place, and I was most shocked by like the mannerisms. It really did seem like a younger Joe Biden, like in his cadence and the way that he spoke and everything. But listening to someone that close to power talk about something so, I, I will say relatable, because I think that it's something that a lot of us, whether it's a personal struggle or someone that we know, addiction is something that unfortunately in the United States right now is a huge problem. And seeing someone talk about their experience with addiction while also being the son of the vice president and, retelling his story of like being young and his sister dying and his mother dying,
Mm-hmm.
and like factoring all of that. I don't know. The humanization, I think, was more so the part that really spoke to me about it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, right? It's a tragic life, right? Like you said, with his sister and mother dying and stuff. But I think, I don't know, maybe listening to it was something, like I said, I didn't listen to it. I just read the stories about it, and they didn't really focus on that part. They just focused on his lashing out at George Clooney. You know, his his dad should have still stayed in the race. And things like that, right? And about his addiction and stuff. But like I said, it's 5 minutes right now. It's going to go away. It's not going to have any factor or anything kind of moving forward. I think for the Democratic Party, which I think some people are trying to tie that to him, but he doesn't. I don't really see that he has a role like in Democratic Party politics in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I would bet the same thing, that it's kind of, I don't even think that he's frankly interested in having a role in Democratic parties in the future, or in
Yeah.
the Democratic Party in the future.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it is interesting, because I was also reading the articles afterwards, and like I said, I follow Andrew Callahan and Channel 5. I have for a while now, and it was really interesting to see how the media only chose to speak. Like that was maybe 20 minutes of the interview where he goes on this tirade about George Clooney and Nancy Pelosi.
Mhm.
But the rest of the interview, he's talking about his experience growing up, and he gets really deep into particularly like the laptop story and talking about all of that. And it was funny to see how he's talking about like the New Yorker. He is the most written about person or the New York Post, not the New Yorker, sorry, the New York Post. He's the most written about person in the New York Post. And just thinking about that and thinking about how they really used his name, like you're saying, to push out these pieces, and really weaponized like it's the same thing I feel like with Kanye West.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been following, where it's like this person is obviously going through something behind the scenes, and instead of like, I don't know, letting them deal with that, the news has this tendency to like bring out the worst moments that someone has and highlight them and weaponize them to sell papers. And I don't know, it was just heartbreaking for me to see that happen. Not heartbreaking, it wasn't that deep, to be completely honest, but it was, upsetting to see him talk about it, and then that exact same thing happen with the clips from the show.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before too, right? The news like to sensationalize things, right? Bring
Mm,
out the worst. Like, let's talk about, you can talk about, for an hour you can talk about 55 minutes of like great stuff and good stuff, and then 5 minutes of negative, and they're going to focus on the negative because that's kind of what sells, right? It's the same thing, kind of, not to change subjects or anything, right? But like the riots in LA, right? They're focusing on these small little protests, kind of trying to create this image that somehow there was mass disruption and things kind of going on here when it really wasn't. It's like we're talking about like a 2-block radius. But, if you watch Fox News, you would have thought the city was on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had a negative experience with that in the past, being a public figure, with being sensationalized, or have you been able to avoid it so far?
I had some. I don't want not to go into great detail about it or
Sure.
anything,
Yeah.
but there was some negative stuff that kind of came out about me that was totally false.
Yeah.
Accusations that were made, but you know, I will say the good thing, right? There was no real kind of credibility behind it, so it never really became anything out in the news. It was more as became a political kind of hitting point
Mm.
for them to kind of hit me on.
Mm.
But we were able to kind of squash it because, again, there was no credibility behind it.
Yeah.
So,
What's I was gonna ask, like, what's the feel? Obviously, there's like the political concern, but like, I haven't experienced that. I feel like it's something that a lot of people can't say that they have experienced, like opening like a website and seeing an article written about you, or having an article written about you sent. What's the feeling like? Is it like, does your heart sink? Do you get angry? Like, what was that process like?
I, I think you just kind of get used to it after a while, but it does kind of like, you know, I will say this, right? There's like some of the financial things or whatever that come out. People think I have this like access to where I'm just like in on meetings about like insider information all the time. And it kind of gets written that like, oh, like, the congressman has access to all this information. And I'm like, no, I don't. I mean, there are, I don't know what trades or what contracts like different government offices or agencies are going to sign, right? That's not something that they kind of clear with us, or that they kind of send us out like a memo and like, hey, this is what's going on, just so you guys know. It doesn't happen, but there's this kind of perception that it does,
Yeah.
and it creates like a falsehood in the public, as if like you're receiving all this information, and it's just not right.
Yeah, I saw Nancy Pelosi went on Jake Tapper's program, and it was the same thing, because this is coming up, I think, in the House right now. I don't remember who was pushing. I know Ro Khanna at one point was trying to push some congressional stock trading ban, and same thing with my senator John Ossoff in the Senate. He was trying to push the thing. Yeah, like, I guess I think what Nancy Pelosi was saying is that she agrees with it because of the presence, or the potential, like kind of how you're describing it, like the potential for people to think that something bad is going on. It was the same thing with like the Supreme Court, in Buckley v. Vallejo, for the before the Citizens United case. They talked about like the appearance of corruption. And obviously there's the sensationalization that goes on in the media, and when you have like an in-depth discussion and me and you are able to actually talk about why this is not what's happening,
Yeah.
it's a lot more nuanced, but they go for the quick headlines. Is it something that you're open to in terms of stock trading, or do you just stay away from?
I think right now I think it's a bit of an overreach. Look, when I was in the administration, there were ethics reviews of your portfolio, what you could do, what you couldn't do. Because I was at the Department of Defense, they said stay out of the top 100 defense kind of, defense stocks that actually do business with the Department of Defense. And it was all about kind of eliminating that perception or anything, right? That, like you said, right? And I think that's totally fine. And I think we should have some kind of ethics oversight into members of Congress and what they're doing and the business that they're doing, and kind of, where you can get it cleared and like, okay, this is okay, this isn't okay, this is what you should do. We were told what we couldn't have, what we needed to sell, what we couldn't keep. I have no problem with that at all. But I think it is kind of just to kind of make it broad in general that, just ban it totally, you know. So, but what does that mean, right? Does that mean no more mutual funds? Does that mean we can't put money into our thrift savings plan right now, which is part of like the members do for their retirement? Because again, the other false perception, right, is I had somebody tell me one time that like, oh, you serve one term and you get like your salary for the rest of your life. Not true at all.
Yeah.
You're treated just like any other federal employee, and and Congress hasn't had a raise in like I think like 15 years or something. I mean, it's been a long time, so it's not like there's a bunch of wealthy people kind of walking around, right? Especially when you have to maintain two households, a place to live in D.C. as well as in your home district. So I'm not saying I'm good, I'm fine, but I know there's a lot of people that it's a struggle financially.
Yeah.
And so, but there is this perception that like somehow like everybody's wealthy. That's not true.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one thing where with the stock conversation, I've never really entertained like this idea of like the insider information, like, oh, you have some knowledge that the rest of the public isn't necessarily privy to. The
Yeah.
angle that I've been curious about is just like the knowledge. Like, let's say there's X company and I'm sitting on this committee, and in the back of my mind, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, like I know that I have investment in that stock. Do you think that that could affect your decision on whether you vote for something or not?
I don't know. Everybody's different, I guess, right? I think some people it may, some people it might. I don't really pay attention to my portfolio. We have people that we employ that kind of do that. I think I talk to them twice a year, and that's just to kind of like on the performance, and that's just so that they can let us know how their portfolio's performing. I know we have to submit monthly reports, and I look at it just to kind of make sure that it's okay. But I don't know. I don't look to kind of see like what contract this company has or that company has or what it's doing or this or that. But again, that's something I said at Department of Defense when I was there. There was that, right? That you should not be involved in this or you shouldn't be in this because they have a defense contract. And I have no problem with that, right? If there's that oversight, they're like, hey, if you're on this committee, you shouldn't be in these stocks.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. So there's like no middle ground right now. Right now, is it like open reign? Are you like required to put it in a different account? Can you manage your own stock? Is there like any restrictions on it?
There's not. I mean,
I
well,
see.
I shouldn't say there's no restrictions, but I think that's where a lot of it is, right? There's some day trading, I think, that goes on, and that kind of creates this falsehood that, well, actually, I shouldn't even say it's a falsehood because I don't know what people are doing, right? But
Because presumably some people, if you have unlimited, I'm obviously not going to throw any direct accusations to like a
yeah,
Republican or this, that, or the other. But like
yeah,
when you're watching the things that happen with Marjorie Taylor Greene and like
yeah.
Donald Trump and all of that, like
hmm
presumably someone, and I'm sure it's happened historically, but you're saying that like typically that's not what's going on.
Look, I don't know what she was doing, but again, I think that kind of creates that perception, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, that something was going on, or what information did she have to kind of go and to do this, right? But, people like were asking me, like, well, what tips are you getting from the White House? And I'm like, they don't talk to me. You know, they do not communicate with Democrats, so there's no information crossing lines here or anything, right?
They're barely communicating with Republicans. I'd be surprised if they were communicating with Democrats. So yeah, no, I feel like that they're that's the problem with the sensationalized headlines, right? Like there is more nuance and there's like middle ground that can be found on issues like this. Because I
Mhm.
agree with you. It is, I think, more complicated when you start to like think about the other, types of funds that people can have, and how that ties into the stock market and whatnot. But definitely like unrestricted, just any time, being able to trade. I and myself feel like does create that appearance that something shady could be going on. But to move on from this topic, I wanted to go back to the interviews because
Yeah.
last night I was caught completely off guard by Kamala Harris's appearance on Stephen Colbert. I don't know if you managed to catch this.
I did not, but I know she's. I was actually reading about how she was going to be on there. I guess she's promoting her book right now.
Yes, she is promoting a book, which I don't. This is how I feel. I personally don't love that her first appearance, like out, is promoting something. How do you feel about it? I might buy the book either way. She might have got me, but
I mean, she wrote a book. You got to promote it. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. It's,
sure, sure.
I don't. Yeah, it's. And look, I think since Bill Clinton, right, a lot of the politicians have kind of taken this path of kind of going the easier route when it comes to interviews. Like if they can go on, Bill Clinton was on Arsenio Hall, right? But people were like, well, why aren't you on? Hold on,
No worries. I can pause this real quick.
there.
Oh,
I had to
perfect.
hang it up. But Bill Clinton went on Arsenio Hall, and they're like, well, why aren't you like doing 60 Minutes, or why aren't you on like Mike Wallace in front of you, or Dan Rather, but it's just kind of the way it is now, right? They all kind of, if you're running for president, you do the late night circuit, right? It's you're on Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. You used to go on Colbert, but we know that's kind of ending now. But it is kind of just one of the things that happens now. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially like, I mean, she's not running for office anymore, or
Yeah.
not right now. She's promoting her book. It's no big deal.
Yeah. No, I'm not against her promoting the book. I guess it's just like the last time that I saw her in public, it was like the great hope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this is going to be the person that takes down Donald Trump, puts the nail in the coffin, and we get to move on with society. And so it just threw me off to like within the first 30 seconds of her sitting down, it was like, and here's a book that she's also writing.
Yeah.
But in the interview itself, I think it was really candid and good in a different side that I think a lot of us were kind of missing on the campaign. Going back to like what you were saying with like playing it safer, the strategy of like not going on the podcast because me and you are about to have a 50-minute conversation and you can take any moment from a 50-minute conversation and make it look however way you want to, and that threat, that danger of like of not playing it safe, I think affected her campaign, and she talks about that during the interview. But one thing that caught my attention is when she was talking about her decision not to run for governor, and not to be in politics. She said that a reason why is that very early on, in her career, she's always been a public servant. And she, had this conversation with her family when she decided to become a prosecutor. And, obviously being a person of color, becoming a prosecutor with the history here in this country, she faced some backlash from her family. And the way that she justified it to them was that you can't really change the system if you're not in the system. You can't change it from the outside. But that recently, she decided to step away and not run for office because she feels like the system is so broken. And now she's not saying that, she's not going to work to fix it, or that she's not going to, that she doesn't think that we should continue to organize or speak out or this, that, the other, but just that being within the system feels wrong to her at this very moment. As someone who is in the system, do you have similar feelings in terms of it being broken? Do you where do you agree with her? Where do you disagree with her on that statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I do not think the system is working the way that it should be, or that it was intended to work right now, right? I think, especially when you look at the federal government, right? We have three branches of, it's supposed to be equal branches of government. And I think right now, a lot of that power is being thrown into the executive to kind of create this Republican idea that they've had of this like super executive branch to where they can just control everything. And
The
that's not,
CEO of the country.
that is not the way it is supposed to be. That was not the way the founding fathers intended it to be. Otherwise, they would have wrote it that way. And so, I feel like it's kind of stretching right now, but we need to kind of get it back in there to kind of do that. Now, how's that going to happen? I don't have the answer to that, right? But I would like to think that at some point, right, I could be part of the solution to that rather than kind of be outside kind of looking in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's it's something else that Hunter Biden said in that interview. He was getting a lot of slack for his use of profanity, but he said, that fucking Trump is a dictator, I think is the quote. And he says that we fought a revolutionary war over two things: habeas corpus and due process. And now we're willing to give those things up so easily. And it was something similar in the Kamala Harris interview. Colbert asks her essentially something along the lines of, do you think that there's people in the government right now that are expecting this to kind of like blow over, like this will pass, like it'll go back to how things were if we just play it long enough? And she said that she feels like there are some people, and that they're, that's an excuse to not do the hard work. I feel like you're someone that's very much on the opposite side of that, where you're trying to figure out and find ways to, speak out, whether that's going to an ICE detention facility or whether that's going and meeting with
Yeah,
constituents.
I think we cannot accept what is going on right now, right? We cannot just be like, okay, let's just be okay with this right now and somehow it'll come back to normal. If we don't continue to push back, if we don't continue to fight, if we don't get people to stand up and speak out, then we are losing, right? It is never going to go back, right? Because this isn't normal right now. ICE agents going out there in mask and just rounding people up at random is not normal. Nancy Mace, saying that her favorite videos to watch are the ones of ICE rounding up people off the streets, and then calling them violent criminals, because they're not violent criminals. They're like just, violent criminals don't go to work every day.
Yeah.
Al Capone, Al Capone didn't have a 9-to-5 job, right? He stood up every day.
Unless you consider tax evasion a 9 to 5.
Yeah, they consider bootlegging, right? A regular type job. But these people, they don't show up. The violent criminals don't show up to work every day. Violent criminals don't work. They don't, put in the work to kind of help and support, their family.
Yeah.
But for her to say like that's just not normal, right? But we cannot let that stuff go, right? It's not like speak out against it and kind of just accept it as normal, because if we do, then it does become normal. So we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We need the people to keep speaking up. And I think, even like some of these, like I'm reading like some of these like hardliner people who are like anti-immigration were even like, oh, you know what? This isn't right, right?
Yeah.
It's not right. What's going on right now? And so, we can't just be accept it. We have to keep pushing back and to do that, right? Otherwise, it's never going to go back to normal.
Yeah. No, I think I 100% agree that we have to keep remembering the people that said and did these things. One moment that just like kind of showed me how desensitized I was to what is going on right now is, as you know, behind the scenes, we're working on another project, a docu-series on immigration that we're excited to, share more details about here in the future. But, we were working on the pilot for this, to show it to people that might be interested in working with us on this project. And I was trying to get B-roll. I was looking for B-roll of, an immigrant being arrested or detained or whatnot. And, I find this B-roll footage and I'm watching it, and it's ASMR of people being deported, tweeted by the White House, the official White House account.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's go. I found the B-roll. And then I had to like step back and be like, what is actually happening right now? Where the footage that I am sourcing for a documentary on the terrible things that are going on right now is being handed to me by the people that are doing the terrible things.
Yeah. That's like you said, right? It's, you got people like Mace, or I said, who just this is acceptable. This is great. It's like, these are my favorite things to watch now, right? It's just, That is not normal.
Yeah.
That is not normal.
No, no.
Nice Barbie standing in front of like a prison cell, kind of like posing, with all these criminals made to kind of like stand behind her or whatever, behind bars. That's not normal.
Well, alleged criminals too.
Yeah,
That's the
well,
thing.
that's the thing is because there's no due process, right? There are people just rounded up, kind of shipped out, not even kind of given the chance.
Yeah.
It's just, it was actually, I was watching not Colbert, John Oliver, this past episode where they're talking about the gang files.
I haven't caught it yet. I'll have to watch it after this episode.
But how people get put on these gang files for like stupid reasons or no
I did
reason,
watch it, yes.
because of the way they dress,
Yeah.
because of who they're hanging out with, right? And again, it's never, the only people on these files are black and brown,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just, guilty by association, guilty by race.
It's wild.
And then you can't get off.
No.
You can't get off these things once you're there.
No.
Hold
someone.
on.
Yeah, sorry.
My wife is calling, so let me see.
No worries. I'll pause it real quick.
Time for a quick message from our sponsors.
This episode of whodem is brought to you by Elect Dems Now. We all know that podcasts are the future. They give us the chance to connect with our elected officials like never before. That's why Elect Dems Now is committed to helping voters engage with the people who represent us. Supporting organizations that bring us closer to our elected officials is crucial to advancing and advocating for the change we want to see. Whether it's $5 or $50, every donation to Elect Dems Now helps shape our future and ensures a country we can all be proud of. Your support sends a clear message to candidates and elected officials. Connecting with you means connecting with America. To contribute and make a difference, visit electdemsnow.org today. Your donation helps build a world where we are all connected. Paid for by Elect Dems Now, electdemsnow.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. It happens. One time I was recording a podcast with this comedian. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I was recording a podcast with this comedian named Zach Bornstein. He actually worked on Jimmy Kimmel. And the first time we were recording, we're probably like 10 minutes into the episode.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm sorry, I have to go. My car's getting taken. And he looks out his window and he joins us maybe a month later. And he's like, yeah, my car got stolen.
Wow.
like just in the middle of us recording the podcast. So we've had our unexpected interruptions before. So it's no problem at all.
All right.
Yeah, but going back to this, changing topic completely, but going back to this conversation about, all of the terrible things going on. Actually, while we were at this break, I just looked and saw that Aaron Parnas was reporting that one of the people that got sent to El Salvador is now saying that they were sexually assaulted and molested while they were being detained there. I guess the way that I will frame this, because I talked about my desensitization earlier. Does it ever happen to you where it's just the phrase that I just said right now is crazy? And if we would have said it at any other time, I think in the past 10 years, we would have all been like, what? We sent someone to go get sexually assaulted in a death camp? Does it happen? You're just what is actually happening in the news?
There should be no surprise, right? This is like the worst of the worst prison, and that's not act like that doesn't happen in prison. So we shouldn't be surprised by that. The worst part of this, right, is that they're just sending people overseas, not knowing who they are, without due process, into a foreign country, and the Supreme Court's allowing it to happen. It is just unbelievable, right, that this is going on. And the other thing, I don't know if you saw on the news that was it the president of El Salvador?
Yeah. Bukele, yeah.
Yeah, don't think that's not going to give Trump some kind of thing oh, if it can happen there, why can't we do it here now, right?
Yeah. I don't think Trump needed any any inspiration.
Yeah, but and to allow him to be president indefinitely, stretch a term to 6 years. Tell me. I mean, they're already talking about it, right? A third term, and then kind of go above and beyond, or whatever, right? It's, yeah.
The thing that I think irritates me the most and frustrates me the most about the Republicans' rhetoric is what I call testing the waters. And they do this all the time where they'll say something extremely outlandish and they'll go, how are people going to receive it? And then
Yeah.
if they receive it bad, it's like, oh, it was just a joke. We were just kidding. But you guys are soft, liberal, sissy snowflakes. You guys can't take any jokes. And if the public receives it all right and they don't push back that hard, then they're like, well, maybe we weren't joking. And we'll start to do some things to actually actuate these things. It was the same thing with the Trump 2028 hats.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a joke, right? Or with Vice President Vance calling Alex Padilla. Yes, Alex Padilla. I always do this with both names, but Alex Padilla, Jose Padilla. It's like, I think he knows what he's doing. He's doing it purposefully, and they're just testing the water to see what they can get away with.
Yeah. No, you're right. They do it all the time, and if they get no pushback, they keep moving forward, right? It's like the, alternative facts,
Yeah.
It's like people are like, well, maybe there are, right? So that's something that kind of they've been able to kind of work with and do, and it's just kind of been they kept going with it and going with it.
Yeah. The double think is
now
crazy.
anytime there is something that they don't like or don't agree with, it's fake news, or, well, we have different facts. It's just it's nuts.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. What was wild to me was I went to I was at the DC Comedy Loft, a fine establishment for anyone here in DC. It's a great place. They host great comedians. I was there watching Tim Pool, who's a conservative political commentator, and I was there for another comedian that they had on the show. But to me, what was crazy to see was there was this lady sitting maybe like 2 tables behind me, and she's probably in her late 60s, and they're talking about the Epstein files, and she goes, "Who cares about the Epstein files?" And it's like, you guys did for years and years and years and years. This was the whole thing. Like, everyone on that stage, I had known them and familiarized myself with them and listened to their content for years. And I know that they talk about the Epstein files. And it's just crazy how, the cult leader goes, hey, it's like the scene from Men in Black, right? It's just like, oh, that didn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, it's like even some of the right wing media almost come into trying to portray Maxwell now as like a victim herself.
I saw that. Newsmax did that.
Yeah, to try and portray her as the victim. She was the one doing all the work. It's just.
Well, not only that.
Yeah.
She did sexually assault people.
Yeah.
And there are reports. Virginia Giuffre, I think is the way that you say it.
Mm-hmm.
She was assaulted by both Epstein and Maxwell.
Yeah. No, it is. But they try and change the story to work in their favor instead of kind of relying on the actual facts of what it is and what happened. But, sometimes I just shake my head at the president, right? And he just kind of makes things worse for himself. And it's like, are you really that dumb?
Yes.
Do you know, like he doesn't know how to put words together.
No.
And but he's like, oh, he was stealing my people. He was stealing our employees. Now, to kind of like to put it in the context of what you're talking about, how they were actually taking people, trafficking them. And now you're saying, well, he was stealing our people. That's why we had this falling out. It's like, okay, he was taking them. Obviously, you knew who he was and what he did. Why did you not stop it?
This was crazier to me because I don't know if a lot of people picked up on these details, and it's been wild that the media hasn't reported on it as much as I think that they should. Mm-hmm. But when he does this error in the question that he's responding to, they ask him, did they take young people from Mar-a-Lago? Did they take young employees, young women from Mar-a-Lago? And he goes, I'm not going to, in the way that Trump always does, I'm not going to say, but yes. And then they ask him a follow-up question, and they go, "What about Virginia Giuffre? Did they take Virginia Giuffre?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think that she worked at the spa at the time, and that they took her from me." Virginia Giuffre was 16 years old when she was working at Trump's spa. what is a 16-year-old doing working at Mar-a-Lago point blank, period? Let's ignore the fact that she gets stolen, his own words, from him by Jeffrey Epstein. Why do you have a 16-year-old giving you massages?
Well, I mean, we don't know what she was doing at the spa, right? So I won't go into
Well,
that.
he said that she worked at the spa.
But that doesn't mean she could have been a receptionist.
Fair.
You know, we don't know what that was, right? But just the fact that he kind of knew about it, and like I don't get him as that an involved boss that he actually knows all his employees who are working where and when and where, like where they were, right? That he knew who all the spa employees were, and that he would kind of remember. So obviously this is something that's kind of stuck out in his brain or whatever, right? Or that he knows. And so it's just, but again, for him to kind of use the words that like, oh, he stole, it kind of creates this context to where you knew actually what this guy was doing. And what business was he taking them into?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What did he have? Like, you know,
That's a good point.
that he had where he needed 16-year-old girls to come and be employed to employ them, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's to do bad shit.
Obviously, and going back, you know, to your point about not knowing what she did. The interesting thing is when she was poached, stolen. I don't even know what the right word is for describing when she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
She said that she was reading a book on massage therapy and on how to give massages, and I'm assuming that that's what, you know, obviously inclined Jeffrey to do the terrible things that he did. But this case, and Donald Trump just consistently, like, I did the cookie jar analogy earlier, you know, with the child. Josh Johnson, a great comedian, does this huge analogy about like getting caught smoking weed for the first time. The president is like a teenager who precisely has gotten caught doing something that he's not supposed to do. Obviously, this is way worse than this analogy, but he's I don't know how to describe, fumbling the bag, losing his mind. Like,
yeah, you know, it's just, again, right, he's creating his own alternative facts. Like he says he's never flew on the Jeffrey Epstein plane, but yet there's, I guess, documentation that he did several times. That, you know, they weren't that good of friends, you know, but do you invite not that good of friends to your wedding? You know, it's just, you're hanging out with them, you got pictures, video of you with them all the time, and it's just crazy. You know, I actually went back, we talked about it last week, I think, the Apprentice movie.
Yeah.
I actually just saw it.
Did you? What did you think about it?
I mean, it is kind of like crazy, right? How he had this guy who was kind of helping him out, and then his head just got so big that he just kind of like, I don't need to listen to him anymore. But the thing about it, right? And this, I don't know if it's true or if this is dramatization, but the dramatized character we'll talk about in the movie, you know, he's always like, I don't drink, you know, I don't drink alcohol, which I will take him for his word at that he doesn't. And he kind of talks about his brother. Yeah. He's a drug addict.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
He was taking amphetamines, you know, diet pills, right? Which is just, they're amphetamines, right? It's speed.
Yep.
So it's just, you know, if that is the real character that it was, right? And again, it's a movie, dramas, they dramatize it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if there's any bit of truth of it, right? It's like what you were doing was much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that I learned from the movie, it was the things about his first wife too that also just like I just didn't know, and I guess it's common knowledge that I just somehow missed. But apparently he was accused of raping his first wife. That's one. Two, then some people, again, these are all accusations. I will say this: the Ox attorney would murder me if he heard me just saying these things out. These are all accusations. Two, that he had something involvement with the death of his first wife. You know, she fell down the stairs. And people have created conspiracy theories. I don't buy into that. The third one is what I didn't know and is true. And just like, what? He buried his wife on one of his properties to get a tax credit for it so that he didn't have to pay taxes on one of his golf courses.
Yeah, that one I never heard of. I didn't hear about that. And I'm like, how do you even just bury somebody on your property, right? Doesn't it have to be kind of be zoned for like a cemetery or something?
I have no clue. I've looked into it. It's kind of iffy. Apparently, it did happen, and he did do this. But I mean, it's wild, and that's the thing too. Going back to like the headlines, it's just crazy. That sounds like an Onion headline, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump buries ex-wife on golf course to get tax credit. That's not a real story that should even be entertained. But the fact that we have that conversation, we're not just like dying laughing about this fake headline, just says so much about what's going on. And going back to the conversation with what's going on here in the United States with immigrants, I'm sure you're familiar with the quote from Dr. King talking about injustice.
Yeah.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing about the quote that I feel like a lot of people often forget is the second half, right? And the second half of the quote talks about, we are tied in, what is it? It's, we are mutual, we're, what is it? We're brought together, or I can't remember the exact words, but we're connected, mutually. Everything that we do impacts one another. He says we're tied in a single garment of destiny, and what affects one directly affects all indirectly. And I feel like this is particularly true with what's going on just across the world as well. Another situation, going on the new media thing was Benjamin Netanyahu going on one of these podcasts as well, and he was getting a lot of backlash for this. I've seen a lot of Democrats now come out and take different stances and speak about the atrocity going on right now in Gaza.
Right.
Want to hear your thoughts on it, your immediate reactions. I saw that you tweeted, something the other day about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've never been a big fan of Netanyahu. I've always supported, Israel's right to exist and their right to sovereignty. But I think for his to just flat out deny that there's no hunger going on there, it's just like he's delusional and living in some kind of different world or something, right?
Yeah.
It's just, my thing is, why not just let the trucks go, right? They're claiming all this like corruption and the food's being stolen and Hamas is getting it and that, but I'm like, well, just let it go, right? Just let all the food, all the trucks come in, let them get it. And if you're doing your part to let it all come in and yet the people still aren't being fed, then you're right, then that's on Hamas.
Yeah.
Let the blame shift to them. But to try and control it or to do it or to not let it come in is just, it's they're not helping the situation, and Netanyahu right now I think is kind of losing very badly the PR war that's going out there, right? And there's even I was reading an article the other day about it said he was an American Israeli journalist, but it's like he was working with them, trying to get them and say like, oh, this isn't happening. They're using, images of like, this boy had cerebral palsy, and yet they're putting him in the things to kind of make it look like he's hungry. Well, that's not the only photo that's being shown, right? There's a lot of video out there, and there's a lot of images out there, and a lot of things that are being done. And so, I mean, even I think you're hearing from people who've been very staunch supporters of Israel now coming out and saying like, hey, this isn't good. What's going on right there is not what should be happening right now, right? People should not be starving to death.
Yeah. And, I saw an interesting take on this, and it was that, it was I think it might have been Jon Stewart. It was someone that was talking about how, they think that Israeli Jews should be safe and that these actions are doing the exact opposite. That by, refusing to give aid, by intentionally starving a population, by, the report that gets me is when they are giving aid, they're corralling them and gunning them down. And these are very obvious war crimes if these reports are true. And seeing Jon Stewart talk about it from that perspective, where it's like you're doing a disservice to the community that you're trying to protect by giving people who have bad intentions. Like, someone that I don't give credit to is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is an anti-Semite, and the only reason that she cares about what is happening in Gaza is because she wants it to push her anti-Semitic rhetoric. I think that that's completely unfair. But that's kind of what Jon Stewart was getting at there, where it's like, what Netanyahu is doing is having the opposite effect of keeping Jewish people safe.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a narcissist himself, right? And really, he's out for his own survival right now. And that's pretty, like, well written, is that he is, appeasing his right-wing base right now that he needs in order to keep his government there so that he can avoid prosecution.
Yeah.
That's his only objective right now. So, it's unfortunate, right? And I think it is a bad situation. And again, right, I think they're losing the PR war. Again, if I said, like, why not just let all the food go in, let all the aid trucks go in, and then people get fed, and then, again, if they don't, you can say, hey, we did everything everybody wanted us to do. We let all the aid trucks get in. The UN is in there. They're feeding people or have the thing. But if it's still not happening, that's not on us. Then let the blame shift to Hamas.
Well, yeah, and the fact that they're not doing that, I think, is what's raising the questions. It's what's causing the controversy. It's what's creating these problems. Because if you're not letting food go into a population that needs the food, it's...
Yeah, the other thing right now, I guess that the other thing that they're trying to push right now is that they don't want the protection of the IDF, and they're saying that, no, we want Hamas to kind of provide the security, which I'm not hearing that from the UN. All the UN is saying basically is like, kind of take off some of these restrictions that you're putting us on, that, you're saying, like, okay, we're going to let it come in, but then you have all these restrictions that we have to meet that delay us, and it takes forever, and it doesn't allow us to kind of get in there.
Yeah. No, it's disgusting. And, I think the first thing that brought it back up to my attention, because obviously this has been an issue now for, going on 3 years. But he did an interview with the Nelk boys. Are you familiar? I know you have younger sons. Are you familiar with the Nelk boys? Have you heard of them?
Only from you.
There you go. Only from me. Well, I'm sorry that I introduced you to such degenerate human beings, but these guys are, and they are self-proclaimed degenerates. That is their entire lifestyle brand.
The crazy thing is that hearing, like, what from you, is that they actually have their podcast, but they use it to kind of push their alcoholic drink or something like that.
Yeah. I had this joke written that the Nelk boys having an alcoholic company is like Hunter Biden moving to Colombia. It's like, you know what I'm saying? You cannot have these guys should not be selling any alcohol. They clearly drink a little bit too much of it, getting high off of their own supply, particularly before this interview. But I mean, one of the questions that they ask him is, like, between Burger King and McDonald's, like, what do you prefer? Yeah. And it's like, this is why, not everyone should be interviewing world leaders because they have, millions and millions of subscribers.
Right.
It's crazy. It goes back to this unreal feeling of what's going on in the media.
And again, too, right? Politicians trying to take the easy road into, like, I'm going to go where they're going to ask the softball questions, And there's people willing to do it, right?
Yeah. No, 100%.
What was some of their, I guess they were, those guys were trying to play, like, after the interview, they try to, like, oh, wait, like, what were some of the things that they were saying as to why their response to kind of all the backlash?
Oh man, I'm gonna explain this to you, and again, it's gonna sound like an Onion article, but so they joined this other content creator named Hassan Piker. He's a left wing content creator on social media, and they go on his platform, and this is their immediate PR damage control, And Hassan's like trying to explain to them, like, hey, this is bad. This guy, he's not out here. They're talking about, well, anyone that we have come on a podcast, obviously, like you were saying earlier with Kamala Harris in her book, they're selling something. They're trying to get something that they're doing out into the public. And Hassan goes, yeah, but they're not selling a book. They're selling, that he says they're promoting a genocide. And these guys are like, yeah, but like we're gonna have someone on the other side come on next week. And he tries to explain to him, like, there is no, like, unless you go and have, like, the leader of Hamas, who will also be someone that you should not interview, come on. There is no other side to this situation. No. They get into this tangent about, like, if they would have interviewed Hitler if he was alive today. And they're like, well, like it's tough to say because it's a historical. It's like these guys just obviously are lost in the sauce. They've just lost their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Be interesting to see if like people still listen or if they're going to lose viewers and stuff.
I think so. They have a huge audience. They have about 20 million followers.
Oh my God. Jeez.
So yeah, within one day of that interview coming out, it had 1.2 million views, like instantly. Like they have a massive audience. They're not. What upset me and what got me doing what I was doing with Ox is they went on Air Force One during the first Trump administration. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they go to Trump to the MMA events. They're friends with Dana White. They've had Trump on the show a couple times now. They've had JD Vance on, but they go on Air Force One. And, like they're touring the plane and they're making Trump look cool with this edits and this music and stuff. And I'm just like, man, why is no one doing that when, Barack Obama was president or when, Joe Biden was president, having these guys that have a young, male target demographic coming on and showing like, hey, this is the lifestyle of the president. This is the behind the scenes. This is him on a podcast. This is us just having a beverage, like humanizing the politicians and just watching them do it and like seeing how they did it, like holding their like alcoholic beverages in their hand and like taking a sip and promoting it while on Air Force One was just like mind boggling to me.
Yeah. Well, promoting alcohol drinks on Air Force One, selling Teslas on the White House lawn, nothing.
Yeah, nothing unexpected from this administration.
Nothing shocks anymore.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Any headlines that you've been following? Anything you've been keeping your eye
on? Nothing different really. I think the tariffs are the big thing right now, right? A lot of the tariffs kind of went into place. Like the stock market's down. I think I checked earlier this morning, like 500 plus points. Switzerland's in shock. Like I guess your Swiss watches now are going to be up like another like 39%. They're going to cost.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Did you see the jobs report?
Yeah, not very good. It was only like 70,000 jobs.
Not only that, but they revised the older numbers too.
Yeah, the other thing that it wasn't another number I saw too was that the labor numbers or something was down because people aren't showing up to work because of all the immigrant labor. People aren't going anymore because they're afraid of the ICE raids and stuff. And look, you can deny it or not or whatever, right? Well, you shouldn't deny it because the fact is that this country relies on immigrant labor, right, to do jobs that we don't have people to do, and it's we need it there, right, and that's got to become a reality, and a reality that we need to recognize. And a lot of people and it's not like all undocumented people, right? Because they're rounding up people that are here legally. They're rounding up people that are here on TPS. They're rounding up people with green cards. They're rounding up U.S. citizens. It's everybody, right? And they're all afraid. And so it's what the chaos they are creating is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's affecting it goes back to the Dr. King quote, right? It's affecting everyone now at this point. We're tied in this together because I remember early on, we were having the conversations on the podcast and it was, this is only affecting, people that look like me and you.
Yeah.
This guy went after Rosie O'Donnell and threatened to take away her citizenship like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, look, they are. I mean, that was another distracting thing that he was trying to do, right? That he's going after her. But I mean, the fact is, he's only rounding up people that look like us. But the fact that he's doing that is having an effect on the overall economy. And it's going to continue to.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. And on these people, that's the other thing too. It has an effect, even if again, my story with my father being undocumented here for a period of time, if he had been deported, my life is fundamentally different.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sitting here talking to you today.
Right.
I'm, probably in South Texas, hopefully in college, but who knows at that point, right? Your life gets turned upside down.
Yeah.
If you're the 16-year-old that gets punched in the face by an ICE officer, previously maybe you wanted to go into law enforcement. There was a article that I was reading about, I don't know if she ended up actually doing it or if the letter was just written, but this girl, I think she was like 6 or 7 years old, contemplating suicide,
Yeah.
because her mother got deported.
Yeah. I mean, it's an age, right, where you are dependent, on your parents.
Yeah.
It is just, how do you even survive as a 6-year-old without your parents?
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Wow.
This isn't the. I don't know if you've ever read a book about Abraham Lincoln and all, right, but his dad, I guess his mother died. And he had an older sister, and I think around when he was 4 or 5 years old, his father took off and left his 2 kids alone to fend for themselves while he went out and got a new wife and came back like months later.
Wow.
I mean, it's just nuts, right? That somebody survives that, or kind of, especially back in those times, in the early 19th century, when, out in the, it's just crazy, right? That somebody could do that, right? But to kind of even fathom the idea of that, somebody being without their parents now, it's just at such a young age. It's just, I mean, what do you do, right? And it's a young child like that, even thinking about something like that is just, how do you overcome that?
No, and that's, again, it goes once again tying back into to what Dr. King said. Seeing that, and then I mean, these timelines are just terrible now. But you scroll from that, and 3 videos later, it's a child in Gaza talking about the same thing. I watched this video of her begging her dad to go and get flour. And he was like, "I'm gonna die, like if I go get flour." And she's like, "It's okay, like it's okay, it's fine." And it's just like heart wrenching, because it's happening there, and that's a war zone. But to see those things also happening here, and children having those same thoughts and having to grasp such difficult things like never seeing your parents again, or how you're going to survive on your own, it's just so heartbreaking, especially in the United States. Theo Vaughn says it best. Theo Vaughn talks about this issue, and he talks about how, like, growing up, he always saw the United States as like the Superman, right? Like the Captain America, the heroes of the world, the doers of good, the person that, he explains it like if we saw what was going on, in Russia, in the Middle East, and this, that, the other, we would be the first ones there. Trying to get in there to stop it. And so just seeing that different, you've talked about it as well, where like it doesn't feel like the country that you remember growing up in. How do we get back there?
Well, new leadership
Yeah.
would start, right? I think new leadership, right? But this is why it's important, as we keep saying, that we need to keep raising our voices and keep speaking out against the tyranny that's going on right now. And, I got to get going, but I'm kind of thinking back to The Apprentice, right? And, I don't even know if we could claim, Trump's rule number 3, which even really is his, that he stole.
No,
right?
he stole those, yeah.
And he stole it from who? Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
But you think, Trump came in and said he was going to end the war in Ukraine. He was going to, bring peace to the Middle East. That he was going to make the economy so much stronger. He was going to lower prices, do all these things, right? And he hasn't done any of them. But yet he keeps claiming victory, victory, victory. This is the greatest 6 months, in the history of the world that any president's ever had. It doesn't matter how bad you're losing or how bad things are going. You just keep claiming victory, and people are going to come to your side. And that's what we're seeing right now, right? Somebody who's unable to take responsibility, and no matter what or bad, no matter how bad he fails, is just going to keep claiming that he's winning, winning, winning. And we got to get away from that. We need somebody who's going to take responsibility for their actions and actually want to do something good for the people. But we have to keep raising our voices. We got to keep speaking out. We got to keep fighting. And I think as we're kind of seeing, right, even, his cronies, or I don't want to say, some of them are speaking up, or even those that have been on his side, like you said, Theo there and Joe Rogan.
Yep.
They're kind of speaking out against him now.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully this new wave, we talked about last time, and we'll end the episode on this, but, Mike Johnson, you're trying to end things early so that this wave would pass by, and it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
No, we're going to keep talking about it.
Yeah, if they think Epstein files and everything is going away, as long as the president keeps opening his mouth about it, right, it just keeps getting worse.
Yep, and there's one thing that we know about the president, and that's that he cannot keep his mouth shut. All right, well, on that note, thank you so much for joining.
All right.
I appreciate the discussion.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.